Hi guys, it's Melly. Welcome back to another mini vertical interview. If you would want to follow me, I'm over on Instagram at Melly-mini vertical. And then I'm also over on YouTube at Melly H YouTuber. I'm gonna allow my guest to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Adriana Vecchioli. I'm a French-Italian actress and filmmaker based in LA, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for doing this interview. I really appreciate that. So the first question that I have for you, Adriana, is something fun we should know about you either personally or acting wise.
Mm, Something fun. I'm also a dancer. My happy places. I love dancing and swimming. So being on a dance floor, on a stage, or in the oceans are my happy places.
I as a Pisces, I love water myself. So I love being in water.
I'm a Virgo, so I don't know what that means with water, but yeah, that's usually where I escape. And
Yeah.
I'm lucky to live in LA, so it's not too much of a drive.
No, and I bet you it's quite beautiful there. I love the beach here, but because we're in the Midwest, I only get the beach 3 months out of the year.
Yeah.
So yes. Second question. Something fun we should know about you either personal oh no, sorry. What is your skill you've always wanted to learn?
A skill I always wanted to learn, definitely singing. I mean, I'm able to produce songs out of my voice, but I'm a terrible singer, and I would love to have a good voice when it comes to singing. But hey, don't have it all.
Yes, I am the same way. I would love to be able to sing, but I am terrible at it. It's the same way I'm obsessed with ballet or ice skating, and I can't do either one.
Yeah. It's a lot for ballet. I did a bit of ballet when I was a kid. It's a lot of discipline. It's a lot of discipline, and we see the free flowing, the beautiful performance, but that's 1% of the whole thing.
Yes, yes. And you guys train like I've been watching ballet dancers for a while, and
Mhm.
just watching the training, it's like so intense and so
Mhm.
fierce. And I'm just like in other awe over here of it because it's just so beautifully done. Okay. Next question. What is a movie you could watch every day?
Good question. I'm not really a repeat watcher. I have a lot of friends who love watching the same movies over and over, or like once a year. But some of my comfort movies and the movies that I tend to revisit. The first one is Practical Magic, because there's something really comforting about it, and this like there's very soothing about the sisterhood between the women, the vibe, like those like neo gothic vibes. There's something very soft, but also it's a film that talks about grief, which is not a which is not an easy topic, and I find it comforting, because sometimes in life you're faced with hard things and you feel alone because not everyone wants to be with Debbie Downer in those moments. So definitely it made me really sad when I watched it for the first time, and I wasn't expecting it because also I was a kid. But now as an adult who has experienced grief several times, like it's a comfort movie. The other film that I tend to revisit is The Matrix. I think it's a perfect film. And I've also read the script several times because when I was started to like write films, um, Quentin Tarantino says to like read the scripts of the movies you love. So I was like, I'm not going to school. And the script for The Matrix is really well written. Like it's written almost like a novel. And not just like because like a script is a work document first and foremost. It's not necessarily something you read for fun, but there's something it's just like every time I watch it, I'm in awe of the filmmaking, the performances, and just how profound and visionary the ideas were in it.
Yeah, I think of the Matrix a lot more now,
Mhm.
with AI being very
Yes.
present in our society. I also think there's a movie which was made originally in like 1939. It's The Women. with Norma Shearer, Joan Fontaine, and Joan Crawford. It's one of my favorite movies because it was ahead of its time. It was an all-woman cast before that was like a thing, a trend back then. And that's another one that if you read the script, it literally reads like a novel. It's really, really
Mhm.
good. And then, like you were saying with Practical Magic, I feel the same way. I can definitely tell with The Grief. That's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. So it's gonna be really quite fascinating to see what they do with number 2 when that one comes out. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, believe it or not, I always wanted to be an actress. So, so I haven't deviated so much from that. Yeah, I think I always had a desire to perform and tell stories, and I think like it's obviously different now as a child. When you're a child, it's all play, and then when you become an adult, there's money, there's time, there's deadlines. It's work, rules, obligations. I think what drew me back then into it was I think like I had a desire to be seen, and the child that I was not necessarily seen by the people around me. I think the people who were around me have the best intentions, but they did not necessarily could understand the weird kid that I was, and I was not necessarily fully allowed to be. It wasn't completely safe to be myself, to express myself. Therefore, using the vehicle intermission of like it's play pretend, it's fake, it's make believe, was giving me permission to go into spaces that would have been otherwise scary. And I think like that last aspect as an adult, I do love roles that challenge me. Like once in a while, I'll be offered a role that has an element that is scary in terms of like a stunt or like something, deep pain or something that's like we don't really go every day over there. And usually I'll say yes for the challenge, but when the booking happens, I don't know how I'm going to deal with it. And then because I know the pressure of the shoot coming in and the mini freak out I'm going to have is going to force me out of my comfort zone. And ultimately, every time that I put myself in the and to go into an experience like that, it always been extremely rewarding and always been like a huge source of growth.
Yeah, I definitely can relate as somebody who's autistic. I spent my whole life not feeling like it was safe to be myself. And I think that is one reason that with cosplay, I really felt more at ease with it because I was able to do that make believe, that pretend,
Mhm.
and be the character I wanted to be. And it was quite safe. And it was approval by society
Yeah,
standards to be this pretend character because by their standards, it's not real. So I
yeah.
definitely can relate to that. If someone was going to make your life into a vertical, who would star in it?
Well, it would be rude to make a vertical about my life and not offer me the leading role. I don't know. I hope she's not born yet. The actress who was starring it, so that there's like material for a very long life.
So, what was your first performance?
My very first performance, it depends what you mean by first, like the very first time I acted or did it in a professional manner. But I do remember, so kind of like how I got into acting was almost as much as I always wanted to do it, I ended up in it as a little bit of an accident. So when I was a child, I was very quiet, very shy, and very introverted. And I think my parents were a little worried about me. And one of my mom's friends advised her to put me in a theater class, kind of like an acting class, so that I would open up more, express myself more. And she looked, what was available around, and there was an acting class for kids 2 blocks down. Turned out it was an acting class for child actors. So it's very different because the level of responsibility is way different than, um, a daycare activity around acting. And so right away, I was thrown with kids who had already been on camera or on stage and knew about deadlines and so on. And I remember for the first class, so I came there. I was in a school. I was in a Catholic school where we had like a school uniform, and all of the kids there were like very liberal. So I was sticking out like a sore thumb with my pigtail braids, my navy blue uniform, when the kids were wearing rainbow stuff and like their hair was messy and stuff. And so I remember as I arrived, like a kid kind of like picked on my appearance, and I was like, what's wrong with that? Because in my world, everyone, it's a uniform, everyone wears the same. And then the teacher said, okay, so first exercise, you're all going to go on stage one by one. Everyone else is in the audience. And you're going to introduce yourself as a character of your own invention or choosing. So I would not introduce myself as Adriana, I would just make up a character. And so that was my very, very first acting exercise. And I don't know what got me, but so imagine like blonde little girl was the the braids, a child, and the blue dress with the little collar and stuff. And I go kind of like crouching, like walking crouching with my arms dragging like long behind me. And I start making this voice and those sound like, and they asked me like, who are you? And I say, I'm Petra. I'm the pterodactyl, Petra the pterodactyl. And they're like, why are you wailing like that? And I said, because I'm sad. In the voice. I'm not gonna do that, not to like scratch my throat too much, because I'm sad. And they're like, why are you sad? I'm like, because all my friends are dead. And they're like, why? Because I'm a dinosaur. Isn't it obvious? So anyway, that was my very, very first improvisation. And after that moment on stage, no one really questioned whether or not I belonged in the class despite my uniform.
So yeah, I'm very familiar with Catholic uniforms. My father's side of the family is Catholic. So I'm very, very familiar with that. So yeah, that sounds about right.
I feel the neurodivergent Catholic boarding school to entertainment pipeline is very real.
It really is. Because my dad's great uncle used to sing like Polish operas. Like he was in a Catholic choir because they went to Catholic school, and it was like very Polish Catholic neighborhood. And he used to sing in Polish operas. So yes, it does make a lot of sense.
But honestly, there's like a strong dichotomy on everything Catholic, because like, we associate Catholic with rigor, modesty, well, religion is modesty and so on. But if you look at the iconography, it's gold, it's like very opulent costumes. There's really like a strong sense of theatrics. So so it's a bit like, why are you dangling those theatrics in front of me and telling me to stay in line?
Yes.
Pick the lane, and I've picked mine.
What techniques do you use to get into a role?
It really depends on the role and how challenging it is. I feel like now for a lot of roles, I take care of myself every day. Like I'll take care of my various instruments, whether it's my body, my mind, my voice, but I don't always apply those techniques to a specific role. I trust that I was cast, and therefore my vision was aligned with what the directors and producers wanted, and so I used to over prepare for roles, and because I was stressed out, I wanted to do well, and as a result, the performances were stilted and a little stiff and just lacking juice and authenticity. And now I'm like, I've done this for a while, so I trust myself, and I trust that if I was chosen to interpret a role, then I trust that my instincts are good. So I try to take care of myself as much as I can, good sleep, good food, and so on, so that I can be as present as possible because I'm not stressed or underslept or any of that. That being said, there are roles that are challenging and that require like a specific training or something, something physical. So I I love movement based techniques. So like I trained a lot with like Alexander techniques back in the day. And there was a role where um my character was both a seductress, but she was also killing some people. And I don't really have a lot of experience in killing people, especially contact killing, like with bare hands or contact weapons, and not like because like a gun you still have a distance. And so I took an advanced dance class before that shoot because I wanted to just connect with my body at a deeper level and a more challenging level. And I picked a class level that was kind of like above my level then. And so first, not only I arrived on set with like a more athletic body than I usually would be, but also a lot of dance is it's about coming back to like a more animalistic approach to the body. And I feel like in the case of the character, like seduction and death, it's like very very basic impulses like eros and thanatos. So I wanted the character to kind of like return to like a certain primitive nature, and in those moments where she does what she does, like strip away the polish of civilization and manners and everything that comes with living in a society. And so I ended up borrowing some dance moves into like the more like physical scenes, but I didn't perform them as like a dance with like the music and so on. It was just like finding different ways to move. And I remember like when the teacher was teaching about the body roll, she was saying, think you're a snake. So the snake, like the head is like the engine of the body, is the head that's defining the movements, and then the rest of the body follows. And so I borrowed that principle for like my character. I was kind of like, head first, like a predator, and then I decided that everything else would follow. Because like you could choose the opposite. You could decide to kick first, use your legs first. But yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that dance, to go back on this question a little bit, do you think that dance helps those physical connection fight scenes where you got to be up close to them better than just like trying to go into that scene?
I think it's different for everyone, and for me it does. For some other people, it might be an impediment. I every time I'm doing a scene, even if there's not a lot of movements, I always trying to find the music of the scene, and I think of it there's like almost as if there's like a music track, and then we put it on mute, and it only plays in my head, for instance. So in the dialogue, I'll try to find the music, when it's even if it's choppy and very brutal and very disharmonious, can still be a music. Not all musical tracks are harmonious. And find the moments where we're comfortable, we take up space and so on, and we can go in like little rounds and rounds and turns and little twirls and so on, versus so for a stunt scene, typically, if there's like a fight scene, and even like when movements aren't familiar to me and so on, and it might be very gritty and brutal, and so nothing like ballet, then in my mind it will start to click when I kind of like when I can hear like the hidden music of the scene, like cha 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 boom, bah, like that's my approach for me, like very I need to connect it to something visceral with its own rhythm.
What do you think makes a performance most believable?
uh, I Many things. It depends. I think like beginning was, do you yourself as an actor believe in what you're doing? Because sometimes we kind of like telegraph what we do. Um, like sometimes some scenes, especially in the vertical world, like some scenes are outrageous. Like they're out of this world, and like I have to be honest, sometimes I read some scenes, I'm like, I don't get it. Like I don't get why those characters would do that. But instead of just, so actually let me backtrack a little bit. So I started auditioning for I last year. I learned about vertical like end of 2024. I was talking to an actor who was working a lot, and I was not working a lot. And so I asked him, like, how come you work so often and you make a living? So he told me about verticals, and I was like, what? And so I was like, I need to get on that train. And so I started auditioning for verticals in like January 2025. And January 2025 till spring, I was auditioning a lot, but I was never booking any of them. And I think I was get called in a lot because they like my look for the kind, especially for the antagonistic characters. But I couldn't book a single one, even like a teeny tiny D player character. And so I was like, clearly I'm doing something wrong. And I went to a couple of sets as background to observe and see. And that's when it clicked. And I remember one of like, because often I was reading the scenes and I was thinking like it makes no sense. Nobody would do that, like who's the alpha CEO pretending to be a janitor? Like, and then I watched the leads do the scene, and I was like, this is very funny. This is ridiculous, but the actors were so great at embracing the ridiculousness instead of pretending that they were higher than this, but also fully committing to the bit. And so it clicked, and that's I started booking the next day vertical roles. And so now it's like sometimes now I understand the dynamics of the scenes because I've that was like practice and experience. But actually, once in a blue moon, I'll still have a scene, and I'll be like, I still don't understand why we went from A to B. So what I'll do then is like I'll take it as an acting challenge and be like, okay, I don't understand that bit. In what world this is true? In what world this would be the norm or the rule? And so that has to be a world that's different than ours with different rules, which is obviously the case in verticals. And so I go backwards like this. All right, so now that we've defined the starting rules, now let's address the scene into that. And usually that's how I'm able to come up with a performance that makes sense and commit to it. Like Meisner is like one of the acting masters that we refer to. He defined acting as like truthful living within imaginary circumstances. So that's exactly what I'm doing. Like it's just I'm missing some circumstances sometimes, so I make them up. And so I would say for a genuine, authentic performance, you have to, as an actor, as a performer, believe in what you do. And for that, I would say also environment helps. Everything around you. Like I'm very sensitive to what and who surrounds me, whether it's the other actors, the environment, and so on. So scene partners, when they're committed, it's like magic. Even if I'm phoning it in that day, boom, I'll commit because I'll absorb. And it's also almost as a gift that they're giving me. Also, when production design, when the environment, the costumes are detail oriented, like I'm not married, but when I start wearing like a wedding band because I'm familiar with it, it will set me right away in this mindset. I'm married, I have children, and so on. I have a family to take care of and protect. So I will also look for anchors when I feel a little weak. When my foundations are a little weak, I'll find those anchors, costumes, and so on, decor, to immerse myself and like trigger the floodgates of the imagination.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very much a visual person myself, so
Mhm.
all of that would help me too. It's the same way you were describing with the acting, just being able to watch it and like catch on to it also
Mhm.
helps because I'm the same way. Like with other stuff, I'm like visual. I have to see it in order to grasp it.
Mhm.
What do you believe is the most challenging aspect of being an actor?
Um, Again, it's changed for everyone, but I think something that we don't really talk about is it's difficult to be seen and to allow yourself to be watched. So you see how, let's say I say speech, make a speech for the room. You know, like 90% of people recoil at that, especially even people who are trained actors, trained performers. We don't talk about the pressure that it is to be seen. And so that means, and then you have all of the intricate ways that it applies. Like, for instance, talking about the body earlier, like having your body being seen in ways that you're not used to see it, as intimate scene, or even just a seduction scene, um aging on camera, seeing things about yourself that you didn't necessarily notice in your bathroom mirror in the morning. But when it comes to emotions, like, when you're a teenager and you have a crush on someone and you tell your friend and you're like, don't tell them, they must not know I have a crush on them. But it would be easier if they know, because maybe they reciprocate the feelings. So it's similar. It's like, because if my character has a crush, I will kind of like make myself have a crush for their character, with the magic of imagination. So I will start gushing and being a little shy and nervous as well, because there's something very vulnerable. Same with pain. Pain can be extremely messy and uncomfortable and so on. And there is this fear of like being pathetic. So I'm afraid that, if there's deep pain going through my character, there's always the fear that the performance was pathetic, too much or too little. But the thing is, like, pain is ugly. The expression of pain is ugly, and like, yeah, we do talk about pretty crying, like that beautiful single tear. And it's beautiful when you can marry like very deep technical demands, like one single tear, like hitting your mark and so on, with the rawness of emotion. But I feel like bringing this rawness in your performance means like being seen at a even more intimate level. And sometimes the line is a little blurred in your performance, and like what is fake for the character versus what you bring. Because I feel like, yes, the story is fake, it's fictitious, the circumstances are fake and so on, but I will always try to bring something that's real of me. And sometimes I'm putting things in performances that I don't necessarily show to my loved ones.
I totally understand that. I also think that helps too with some people. Like I know for me personally, I have a very high pain tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
So there's certain people who are like, well, that's not believable. They weren't having real pain. Yeah, but how do you know? Like they could have a very high pain tolerance. So
Mm-hmm.
I can truly understand that.
Mm-hmm.
What is a funny or memorable moment from your time on any vertical set?
Okay, so I have a very funny one. That was probably my second, I think like my second or third vertical ever. So I was really, really new to it. And I was cast last minute. I was a nurse out of many, many nurses in a hospital scene. So not a very strategic character. And I received the whole sides the night before. And you receive like 15 to 20 pages. So I just did a control F looking when I was speaking. I see I have 3 lines. I learned my 3 lines. It was super easy, like, doctor, here is the medicine you requested, something like, here's your scalpel, something like that. So I had like, so needless to say, I came widely unprepared to the scene. So I'm like, I know my lines and stuff, but like, I don't know, I was lazy. I kind of like skimmed through, but I didn't really read the whole thing. And so basically what happened in the scene is Um, gosh, that's sad. So, the surgeon is testing the main female character for her like mouse to mouse technique and so on. And so the scene kind of like progresses with them making out in the operation table right in front of like 9 nurses that are absolutely stunned. And because I didn't properly read the the pages the night before, I gave a very genuine reaction. I was like, "What the fuck is happening?" And also, this was like a long scene. So when they started making out, I started kind of like internally freak me out. Because also because I was new to vertical, I didn't really know when it came to like the erotic aspect of it, like how far they would go. Now I know what the boundaries are and so on, and then it's kind of like free game within those boundaries. But I had a moment of like, shit, like, are they going to do something stimmier than making out? And not only I have to watch what's going on, but also I'm on camera and those images will stay. So thankfully it was just making out, but I went through all the colors of the rainbow.
I can imagine. What has been your what is it like for you as an actor to have a vertical be popular right in this moment? And then you're also headed to like a vertical set or you're on the way to another vertical set.
And it's always good when a vertical gets popular, gets a lot of views because um I had a so I in September I worked on a vertical named How to Break a Dilf, and I had a small part in it, and I went to set that day, you know, like any other day, and this one really exploded in the rankings. You know, had like um I don't remember how many views it had, but definitely over like 100 million views, and and this is one that people like reference often. And so after that, people started following me on social media. And mind you, my character appears pretty late, only on the in the third act. Um, but it's great because sometimes like people would like sometimes like industry people, so like people behind the scene would be like, oh yeah, like we want that type of thing happening, like in How to Break a Deal. And I was like, hey, I was on that set, so I know what you're talking about. And so it's always helpful work wise. It shows, you know, because also I feel like you don't, when you're on set, you don't always know what will hit and what will flop, especially when you're new to it. At first, you're like, yeah, everything is ridiculous and so on. And now, like, I've been on verticals that popped and other that flopped. And so now I feel like I have a pretty good sense of like when the magic is happening. Of course, a lot of things can happen in post production as well, but I have a good sense being like, oh, this is juicy. Like, you know, I think it'll translate well in the final result. And so I think um it gave me confidence to be like, okay, I know what worked. I you know, just when I have a good feeling about something, when I have an instinct that something will work, I before I was kind of like doubting my instincts a bit because it was such a new medium, and now so that's great. And I feel it's always easier when you're working with a new casting office or something on new people, just to if they see like on my resume at the top I put like the most popular ones I've worked on, even if I had a small part. There's no small roles, only small actors. And I think like it started to make like the auditioning process easier for me. I still audition and so on, but once in a while I have a direct offer, and because it shows that I have done it before, and so that definitely makes things easier. And you know, and then the second half of your question was like what it is to have a popular vertical and then go on another set. Well, you have to stay humble. You never know what's the next thing, and so you never know what's the next hit. So, um, I want to be reliable. I want to show up always. Whether it's one line or 15 pages, and it's a career that keeps you humble because you always have to be working for. You always have to pay your next bills. So I feel like, yeah, if something that I worked on months before is popping off right now, that makes me happy and that makes me proud. But I still have to go to work, and still be a good team player. So that does not change any of that.
What has been your favorite vertical role so far?
Ooh. So the bigger roles are not necessarily like often sometimes like my favorites are the ones that have something ridiculous and I'll be able to add something that's very much on my own. Like when the director there's like a trust or like I'll be like, hey, so this is how I read. So sometimes you don't have time to rehearse much and like you meet the director on set, so there's not a lot of time. You have to get going because like time is money. I'll be like, hey, hi, I'm Adriana. I play so and so. They basically just know you from the tape, so they don't know your personality. And I'll be like, so I have to be really quick and concise. I've read the scene. I saw that. I had an idea. Here's my idea. And I act it out. And then it's like, yes, no, maybe. And so sometimes like things click. And some of my so there's one, I can't say too much about it because it hasn't been posted yet. But basically my character is drunk during and I mean I'm in only this scene. I am like a family member, a family relative of the main mean girl, and she throws this like opulent party banquet showing off the money of her new man. And so I am like the drunk relative, and I grab a vase, I play with it, and I break it, and it sets off like a whole chain of events, obviously. And so that was not my usual. That's still very fresh in my memory because it was like about a month ago, and it was just so ridiculous to be like this like clumsy drunk character because usually they make me play more of the power ladies, very icy and controlled. And I remember, so we were discussing of like how to break the vase for the shots because we don't, you don't want to break 15 vases. That's expensive. But also we wanted to make sure that nobody was getting hurt with any of the shards and so on, was the stunt coordinator. And so, but also it had to be fun. So I remember we were I'm gonna grab a candle. So we were rehearsing a different movement, and we're like, it has to go that way so that if there's any shard, it goes away from the performers. But yeah, so and the directors had a lot of ideas. So we were like, how would a drunk person grab the vase to look at? And we're like, oh, maybe I'm looking inside as if it was, like a binocular and stuff. And I try to see underneath so there's like a price tag or stuff. And so I really enjoy this moment. I have recorded the BTS of that. So when the vertical comes out, I'll post the BTS of that moment.
Yeah, those are scenes. There are two actors that come to mind. David Tennant is one who is really good at playing a drunk character, and you don't know that he's not drunk because he's so good at it. So those are usually some scenes that are like really, really hard for actors to nail sometimes. So I cannot wait to see that.
Yeah, I mean, everything like where there's like a level of intoxication, we talk about it in acting school as like one of the baptism of fires for actors, because like a lot of actors will try to overplay drunk, being like, oh, and the thing is like in real life when you're drunk, you usually try to hide it and contain it. And I'm sober also. I mean, I have drunken alcohol in my life. I've been drunk in my life, but it's not like a super fresh experience. It's kind of like past. And in this case, I was like, okay, the character is clearly drunk. It's part of the comedy of it, but also like it's not a greedy drama. It's not something where like it has like it's okay if it's not that realistic. Like what matters is like it's funny and entertaining. So I was kind of like thinking like, how does being drunk translate for this character? And I just decided to be just extremely flexible. I was wearing high heels, and you know, like the balance is different on high heels. So I was using my ankles a lot to just makes my foundations really soft and let the body, you know, let the body adapt to that moving baseline in some ways.
So this will be the final question for the first half. What is usually kept in your vertical set bag?
Oh, well, actually, I think it's very important to come well prepared. And because like we talked with other actors of like what to bring, because like you have to stay sometimes 12 hours in the cold or in the heat and so on. So I have made a list with like Amazon links and so on of kind of like my essentials, so I can share the list with you, that you have everything. What I have boots that are quiet, you know, like kind of like, so not the hug ones but similar, that are easy to sleep on and off because I'm often wearing heels, so I need things that are comfortable and doesn't hurt at the end of the day, and to be patient, but also they are quiet, so that means you can walk when other people are rolling. You can go to Crafty and get a drink and get a snack. So that changes everything. What else I have a lot, so that's like a personal one. I have a lot of different press on nails because I love to play with my hands and I love to have a different color. But sometimes one day I'll be like the femme fatale, and the next day I'm like a more shy character. So I can't come with the red claws. So, and I have learned now, I have perfected the art to put them on in like less than 10 minutes. So and they're reusable. I don't like waste. So I have a pouch where I have 5 different colors, and I'll be like, okay, red, black, blue, gold, gold digger. So gold it is. It's like I love little details. I always have hand warmers. Always. You never know because sometimes it's like you're outside, it's hot during the day, and then at dusk it becomes yeah, so slippers, very important. Always have a big water bottle. And if it's a very physical scene, whether it's like dancing or fighting, I'll bring like a whole bottle of like a liter at least of coconut water because the electrolytes make me going all day. Um, what else do I have? I have a hairbrush, and I was thinking I don't have it yet, but having like one of those foldable chairs, like camping chairs, because I saw a custom designer have one, and it was so comfy. And sometimes you just don't have you have to sit on the floor and or like your costume is, you have to pay attention to your costume and so on. And I don't have one yet, but I was like, okay, I may get one because I don't want my bag to be too heavy. And a book. I have a book, and sometimes I bring like a little plushie when I need a little bit of softness to, you know, be connected to my vulnerability.
That is a great list. I think you've had the best list for that bag so far.
Well, I'm glad.
So I want to thank you for doing this interview. I hope you had as much fun as I did.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and I hope you come back for a second one.
Totally.
Everybody else, thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a great day. Go follow us over on Instagram. Mine is Melly-Mini-Vertical. And again, thank you so much, Adriana.
Yeah. Thank you, Melly. Hi, everyone. And yeah, I'm Adriana Vec. You can follow me at Adriana Vec on your favorite social platforms. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you.